Have you ever looked back on a relationship where you poured every ounce of your soul into the soil of another person, only to find that garden completely barren, forgotten as if it never existed? And yet, you've seen them, haven't you? Those women who, with just a single, fleeting appearance, seem to plant a seed in a man's mind that grows into a forest he can never quite leave. What is their secret? The answer is not a skill you can learn, not a beauty you can buy, nor a manipulation you can master. It all begins in the quiet, deep chambers of the unconscious. In the ancient, archetypal images she awakens in his soul, even if only for a moment. And in the landscape of love, what a man fails to fully understand, what he can never quite grasp, is precisely what he can never, ever forget. This is not a video teaching you how to play psychological games with another person's heart. This is an invitation to take a journey into your own darkness, into the hidden parts of you from which an inimitable magnetic energy radiates, the kind of energy that makes a man feel the chilling weight of your absence, even when he is lying right beside someone else. So, I will not keep you waiting any longer. In this journey together, we will uncover 10 silent, yet profoundly powerful attitudes that can make any man unable to control the deep, persistent longing for you long after you have walked away. Are you ready to step into the realm of symbols, shadows, and the nameless urges that truly govern attraction? Stay with me until the very end, because each attitude we explore is not a tactic to win someone over, but a doorway back into your most powerful self. Every woman has likely, at least once, felt the profound helplessness of giving everything she has, only to receive nothing but the cold silence of being forgotten by the man she loves. Like moths drawn irresistibly to a flame, the more they try to impress, the more they strive to prove their worth, the more they feel an invisible wall rising between them and the one they long to be close to. But as the great psychologist Carl Jung said, what we do not make conscious emerges later as fate. These women believe they are fighting to control the narrative of love, but in truth, they are being controlled by old unconscious wounds, by the silent echoes of past hurts they have not yet faced. That is why they remain trapped in a vicious cycle. The more desperately they chase, the further their desired connection slips through their fingers. Imagine for a moment stepping into a room that is absolutely perfect. Every object is meticulously arranged with surgical precision. Every surface gleams. Not a single thing is out of place. At first, you might feel a sense of satisfaction, of order, but soon, a subtle feeling of suffocation begins to creep in. Why? Because deep within the human instinct, there is a primal craving for surprise, for a touch of instability, for the beauty of the incomplete. Love is no different. True, lasting attraction is never found in the polished veneer of a perfect appearance or in a flawless, predictable devotion. It is born in the unfinished spaces, in the missing pieces that awaken a man's deep-seated desire to explore, to understand, to solve the beautiful puzzle that is you. Jung called these hidden, often rejected parts of ourselves, the shadow, the unconscious aspects we hide even from ourselves. A man cannot stop thinking about a woman who has left him not because she was a paragon of perfection, but because she stirred within him a profound sense of lack, a persistent, gnawing curiosity he could never quite satisfy. She became a question he couldn't answer. Have you ever noticed how some women seem to attract men by constantly catering to their every emotional need, while others become an obsessive, distant mirage with just a few fleeting moments of connection? The only fundamental difference lies in how they confront their own inner wounds and insecurities. A woman who constantly seeks validation from the outside world is, in truth, neglecting the world within. She is like someone trying to fill a cracked vessel. The more water she pours in, the faster it drains away, leaving her emptier than before. In stark contrast, a woman who understands her own psyche, who has journeyed into her own shadows, exudes a magnetic allure that is effortless. She doesn't try to fix her cracks through another person's affection. Instead, she becomes an unanswered question, awakening in a man the primal instinct to explore, to conquer, and to deeply, truly understand. Jung once said, "There can be no transforming of darkness into light, and of apathy into movement, without emotion." A woman's true power, her unforgettable essence, never lies in the outward attempts to capture attention. It resides in the quiet courage to look within, to recognize her own wounds, to accept them not as flaws, but as part of her story, and to transform them into a quiet, steadfast confidence that needs no external applause. That is the deeper reason why a woman who seems to make no effort at all can linger in a man's memory forever. Because what she leaves behind is not a perfect image or a string of carefully chosen words. She leaves behind an awakening of parts of himself he had long forgotten, buried deep in his own unconscious. This is the secret buried deep in the psychology of love, where true desire is created not by the desperate attempt to possess, but by a conscious, graceful letting go, a mysterious silence that leaves a man forever wondering, who is she, really? So what is it exactly that makes these mysterious silences, these graceful retreats, so powerful that they create a kind of longing a man can't even explain to himself? If love were merely the satisfaction of the senses or a fleeting comfort found in another's presence, why do we still find ourselves yearning for those who may have caused us pain, for those who left without ever offering a full explanation? Jung believed that the unconscious always knows first, especially the truths our conscious mind desperately tries to deny. Longing, in its purest and most potent form, doesn't arise from clear, logical memories of shared moments. It is born from the shadowy, elusive corners of the soul, from the places we least expect it to emerge. The male mind, contrary to the common belief that it is a fortress of cold logic, is, in reality, a mystical landscape filled with ancient symbols and unnamed powerful images. In the depths of his unconscious, a woman's image is not stored like a sharp, high-resolution photograph. Instead, it exists as a hovering silhouette, suspended somewhere between dream and reality. She is like moonlight, gentle, illuminating, yet forever out of reach. And it is precisely because she cannot be fully grasped, fully possessed, that her silhouette becomes haunting, more profound and more real than anything he has ever held in the tangible world of his everyday life. Picture a man's capacity for longing as a deep, subterranean lake. Its surface may appear calm and serene, reflecting the sky above. But beneath that placid surface lies a silent, powerful current, moving with an unseen force. A single small pebble, a simple, seemingly insignificant gesture from a woman, like a fleeting glance that seems to pierce right through his defenses and see into his soul, can create ripples that spread endlessly outward. Those waves don't just disturb the surface. They travel deep into the psyche, weaving through the most hidden corners of his unconscious, becoming a wordless, persistent longing that no language can ever fully capture. Jung explained that our unconscious is like a vast, dark room where we store all the forgotten relics of our past memories and emotions we've buried, unfulfilled secret desires we dare not speak aloud. When a woman enters a man's life with a single enigmatic gesture, a profound silence, or an ungraspable mystery, she unknowingly touches one of those ancient relics. Instantly, a surge of powerful, unfamiliar emotion rises from the depths, shaking him to his core without him understanding why. This is the unconscious mechanism Jung called projection. The woman becomes a living screen, a mirror reflecting a man's deepest, most secret desires back at him. So when she leaves, he doesn't just lose a person. He loses a part of himself that he had only just begun to glimpse through her. Unconscious longing cannot be controlled by reason or by sheer force of will. It seeps into his dreams. It whispers in the quiet moments of his day, becoming the most beautiful yet painful obsession in his inner life. This is the kind of profound, indelible longing that every woman wishes to inspire, but not everyone understands how it truly works. To ignite it, you must first understand this unconscious mechanism before you can learn how to touch it, and that is exactly what we will explore in the attitudes to come. If these ideas about the hidden landscapes of the mind are already sparking a new perspective for you, take a moment to subscribe to Mind Decode Explained. We journey through these intricate pathways together, seeking not just answers, but deeper understanding. And the attitudes I'm about to reveal are not just behaviors to adopt. They are the emotional DNA that can awaken that unforgettable longing from the very deepest layers of a man's unconscious. First, there is the depth of silence. There is a kind of silence that is gentle yet sharp, seemingly harmless at first glance, but which quietly etches indelible marks into the architecture of a man's mind. This is not the sulky, passive-aggressive silence of resentment, nor is it a manipulative withholding of affection designed to control another's emotions. It is the profound stillness of a deep lake at dawn, its surface perfectly calm while its depths conceal a mysterious hidden world that those standing on the shore can never fully fathom. Jung once said, "Nothing so promotes the growth of consciousness as the inner confrontation of opposites." In the dynamic of love, this deliberate, conscious silence is the bridge that connects the unconscious of two souls, creating a captivating and enigmatic obsession. Picture yourself sitting across from a man in a quiet cafe. The conversation is flowing lightly, comfortably. Then, suddenly, he asks you a question, perhaps something a little deeper, and instead of immediately offering an answer, you pause. You offer a faint, almost imperceptible smile. You hold his gaze deeply for just a few brief seconds, and then you gently look away before responding. That single moment, though small, is powerful enough to send his mind spinning with 1,000 unspoken thoughts. He cannot know exactly what you are thinking, but that very ambiguity, that space you've created, draws him in fiercely. For what is vague, what is elusive, is what ignites a man's primal instinct to understand. Psychologically, this phenomenon is closely tied to a well-known theory called the Zeigarnik effect. The human mind tends to remember most vividly the tasks that remain incomplete, the stories that are left open-ended, the questions that are left unexplained. A man will not cling to the things you say too clearly or explain too thoroughly. He will forever recall the moment you leave an ellipsis, a gap in the conversation that he is compelled to fill with his own imagination and his own unconscious projections. We see this principle at play in all great art. Why do people endlessly debate and remember the open-ended conclusion of the film Inception or the enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa more than they remember clear, detailed plot points from other stories? Simply because these gaps, these silences, hold a powerful magnetic pull over the human unconscious, compelling us to seek our own answers. A woman who masters the art of profound silence knows how to create these beautiful, intriguing gaps in a man's mind. She doesn't rush to satisfy his every curiosity or lay bare her entire inner world on the first meeting. Instead, she allows him to venture into the darkness of his own mind to seek answers about her. And that very journey ensures he can never, ever forget her. The depth of silence is the subtlest, most powerful way to plant a seed of longing in a man's mind that he cannot explain. It is a meaningful absence, a silence that speaks more volumes than any words ever could. But remember, this silence only holds power when it is authentic, when it comes from a place of you truly commanding your inner world, rather than using it as a tactic to manipulate or conceal. The unconscious always knows what is real and what is a performance. And only when you are truly present in your silence do you become the woman a man can never forget. Second, retreating at the right moment. The art of disappearance. If profound silence is the single moment that leaves an ellipsis in a man's unconscious, then the art of retreating at the right moment is its perfect dynamic evolution. With this, you not only create a temporary gap, but you physically withdraw just at the peak of connection, just at the moment he thinks he has finally grasped you, making him feel the sudden, sharp reality of your absence. Carl Jung once wrote, "The creative mind plays with the objects it loves." In the dance of love, a woman's deliberate, well-timed disappearance is that priceless gap, the space that sows seeds of desire in a man's mind that cannot stop growing. Imagine a gentle breeze passing through a field of wildflowers. It's strong enough to make all the blossoms sway in a beautiful, mesmerizing dance, yet it's gentle enough not to harm a single petal. When the breeze is gone, no one can see it anymore. But its traces linger everywhere in the continued movement of the flowers, in the lingering fragrance on the air, in a fragile yet persistent longing for its return. A woman who knows how to retreat at the right moment is like that breeze. She doesn't stay so long that she loses her allure and becomes part of the scenery, nor does she leave so abruptly that she causes pain or confusion. She leaves just enough signs, just enough gentle ripples, to keep him searching, to keep him yearning. Many women mistakenly believe that constant presence and availability are what foster affection and closeness. Yet, human psychology often works in the opposite way. What is always available is often taken for granted. It becomes like the sunlight, beautiful, essential, and radiant, yet so constant that it is rarely noticed or appreciated with the awe it deserves. In contrast, the sudden, unpredictable appearance and disappearance of the northern lights, though brief, leaves an impression that can last a lifetime. Have you ever left a situation without a word, yet left someone with the distinct feeling that they've lost something vital they can't quite name? This taps directly into the psychology of loss aversion, a powerful motivator that drives human action and memory. When you retreat at the perfect moment, a man's unconscious immediately registers a sense of loss, however small. This awakens in him a primal instinct to possess, to hold on to what he feels is slipping away from him. A woman I know once shared that she always made a point of leaving a date just when the man she was with was most deeply savoring her presence, when the conversation was at its most engaging. At first, he was confused. But then, he found himself unconsciously seeking her out, pursuing her more actively, because each time she vanished, he felt as if a special, vibrant part of himself went with her. This isn't manipulation. It's the high art of activating desires that are already dormant in a man's unconscious. A woman who understands the profound value of retreating at the right moment never fears being forgotten, for she knows that disappearing at the perfect time is the surest way to live forever in the mind of the man she loves. Third, keeping an air of mystery. Crucially, she understands that for the art of retreat to have its full mesmerizing effect, it must be paired with an enduring air of mystery. Unlike mere absence, mystery is not about vanishing completely or being emotionally unavailable. It's about being present, but with layers yet to be unraveled. Carl Jung wrote, "We are captivated by archetypes, the eternal images which dwell in the unconscious of all people. A woman who embodies true mystery is the living embodiment of such an archetype, a symbol that activates the deepest, most primal unconscious layers of a man's mind. Mystery is not about pretending to be inscrutable or creating distance with a cold, aloof attitude. True mystery is selective authenticity. It's about showing a genuine part of yourself, but not every part all at once. Imagine walking into a vast ancient house. Some of the rooms have doors that are wide open, inviting you in. Others are only half open, offering tantalizing glimpses of what lies within. Still others remain firmly closed. You feel welcomed into the space, yet you cannot stop wondering what secrets, what treasures lie behind those closed doors. A woman with this magnetic energy doesn't need to say much or recount her entire life story. Every glance, every carefully chosen word, every thoughtful silence suggests that there is a rich inner world yet to be revealed. In psychology, this taps into a fundamental component of the human unconscious, the deep-seated desire to explore and possess what isn't fully ours. When you share every thought, every fear, every past experience right away, you may create a quick sense of intimacy, but you also risk becoming a book that, once read, is placed back on the shelf and closed. Conversely, when you know when to stop, when to hold back a few untold stories, letting him guess and question and wonder, you leave a vast, uncharted territory in his mind. And his unconscious will relentlessly seek to explore it, to map it out, until an answer is found, even if that answer never fully comes. A psychologist I once met shared, "I never reveal everything about myself on the first few dates. It's not because I fear vulnerability. It's because I want to leave space for the other person's imagination to do its work." Her words recall Jung's concept of the anima, the idealized feminine image that is projected from the male unconscious. A man doesn't truly fall in love with a specific, real woman, at least not at first. He falls in love with the image of her that she helps him create in his own mind. And it is the ambiguity, the incompleteness, the lack of total clarity that gives that projected image its lasting, haunting life in his memory. For what we fully understand, we can categorize and, eventually, leave behind. But what we never fully grasp will forever haunt us. Fourth, being at peace with solitude. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Solitude, for many, is a universal human fear. We are often driven by a frantic need to fill its void with the constant presence of others, with a stream of text messages, with an endless schedule of meetings and social events. But a woman who is truly at peace with solitude doesn't flee from it. She steps into it as if she were entering a sacred room, a private sanctuary where she can finally hear the clarity of her own voice. And paradoxically, the woman who demonstrates that she can live a full, joyous life without a man is often the very one that men desire the most. Why? Because her independent, self-contained energy touches a deep, unconscious part of a man, the part that always feels a little incomplete, the part that is always restlessly seeking something outside of himself to make him feel whole. This phenomenon is tied to Jung's archetype of the divine feminine, the image of a woman who is nurturing and healing, yet remains fundamentally unbound, existing without needing anyone's permission or validation. She doesn't need you to live fully, yet her presence, when she chooses to grant it, makes you feel like you are living more deeply. When a man encounters this kind of energy, he no longer feels like he is the center of her universe. Instead, he is drawn towards another, more powerful and mysterious center, her own. And because he cannot possess it, because he cannot control it, he craves it endlessly. I once knew a woman who lived alone in a small house nestled in the mountains. She worked online, tended her garden, read books, and never once complained about needing a man by her side to complete her. Those who crossed her path, even those who met her only once, all admitted that there was something profoundly calming about her. It was not the coldness of isolation, but the deep serenity of someone who is utterly at peace with herself. A woman at peace with solitude doesn't actively isolate herself, nor does she desperately beg for connection. She simply stands like a mountain unmoving, unshaken, and independent of the changing weather around her. And this steadfastness, this self-sufficiency, deeply unsettles a man who is accustomed to being needed. He cannot fathom why he thinks of her so much, but the dawning realization that he cannot control her inner world makes her an enigma he can never truly leave behind. Have you ever chosen the quiet of your own company over the noise of trying to hold someone close? Have you ever learned to stand firm in your own solitude without losing yourself in loneliness? Being at peace with solitude is not a rejection of love. It is the solid foundation required for loving another without losing yourself in the process. Fifth, communicating through symbols. The glance, the smile, the absence. Carl Jung asserted that intuition is perception via the unconscious. Words are the language of the conscious mind, But symbols are the native tongue of the soul. Through a single meaningful glance, a fleeting, enigmatic smile, or even a purposeful, unexplained absence, a woman can convey a message far deeper and more resonant than hundreds of words ever could. When the words end, the symbols begin, and it is from that silent, fertile ground that true, lasting longing is sown. In our everyday lives, people often judge the quality of communication by what is overt and explicit. The words spoken, the actions taken, the stories shared. But on a deeper, unconscious level, what lingers longest in someone's mind isn't the content of the conversation. It's the emotional impression it left behind. A glance, neither too long nor too short, but just long enough to feel as though it has touched the most vulnerable part of a man's soul. A smile, not offered to please or placate, but one that seems to carry a layer of elusive private meaning, leaving a ripple of emotion he can't quite pinpoint. Psychology calls this impression memory. It doesn't store events logically like ordinary memory. It captures raw, visceral emotions that are tied to images or symbols. That's why you might forget the name of someone you met years ago, but still recall the intensity of their gaze when they said goodbye. You might forget the details of a long conversation, but still feel the profound emptiness when they turned and walked away without a final word. A woman who understands this power doesn't feel the need to speak too much or over-explain herself. She lets symbols speak for her. She lets her gaze tell a story that words cannot reach. Imagine a woman entering a crowded party. She doesn't say much, and she doesn't stand out with loudness or flamboyant gestures. But the way she moves, slowly and deliberately, the way she smiles, sparingly, as if to herself, or the way her gaze lingers on someone for a fleeting second before turning away. All of these create a silent language that can only be felt, not spoken. When she leaves the party, the men who noticed her remain haunted by an unformed question. Who is she? Not because she was impossibly beautiful, but because she seemed to communicate something beyond the ordinary, frantic pulse of the world. Jung believed that symbols have the power to transform the psyche. They bypass the rational, critical mind and go straight to the primal, emotional unconscious. A woman who knows how to embody a symbol not through performance, but through a complete and authentic inner state doesn't need to try to be remembered. She becomes more than just a person. She becomes an experience. And a vivid, symbolic experience is one that no one can ever forget, even if they don't understand why. Sixth, contradictory femininity, gentle and fierce at once. When a woman can embody a living symbol through her gaze, her silences, and her unspoken depths, what makes her truly irreplaceable is her capacity for a contradictory primal femininity. She is as gentle and yielding as a flowing stream, yet as fierce and uncontainable as a smoldering fire. Carl Jung wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." When a woman dares to live fully in both of her extremes, soft yet sharp, loving yet resolute, caring yet unyielding, she becomes a living embodiment of the anima, the sacred feminine archetype that exists in the depths of a man's unconscious. Human beings are not drawn to what is predictable. We are captivated by contradiction. A woman who is always smiling, always accommodating, always gentle and predictable isn't a mystery. She's a formula. In contrast, the woman who lingers in a man's thoughts is the one who is both tender and untamed. She is capable of whispering words of love and support, yet also capable of staring directly into his eyes and saying no without tears or apology. She can never be fully known, never completely figured out. And that very fact stirs a restless unease in his unconscious, a place where he feels he has lost control, yet a place he wants to stay forever. Have you ever felt within yourself two opposing energies? One gentle, that wants to embrace and nurture, and another that is fierce, that wants to walk away and protect its boundaries? Have you ever wondered if you could be both a stream and a fire, while remaining wholly yourself? This state of integrated opposites creates a gentle, continuous emotional tension where the mind cannot predict what will come next. It keeps a man alert, attentive, hanging on to her every subtle gesture, like someone watching a stormy sky captivated by its terrifying beauty, wary of its immense power. This intoxicating blend of feeling cherished and being challenged is what makes a man remember her forever, for she awakens emotional depths in him that no one else has ever dared to touch. Think of this femininity as a dancer known as the quiet wave. On stage, her movements are fluid, flowing like silk. But backstage, she is direct, decisive, and utterly uncompromising with anything that threatens her essence or her art. She is a contradiction that has found its reconciliation. The men who have loved her often say the same thing. She made me feel more loved than anyone, but she never, for a second, allowed me to take her for granted. True femininity is not a weakness. Its greatest strength lies in knowing precisely when to be soft and when to be firm. A woman who embraces all of her contradictions without trying to fix or hide them is the one a man can never walk away from in his mind. She is not a role he can cast. She is a journey without an end. 7th, leaving without harm, but leaving a lasting mark. If a woman who reconciles her contradictions can captivate a man with her unpredictable vitality, then the final quality that renders her unforgettable is the way she leaves. Gently, without breaking things, without blame or drama, but leaving behind a tangible, palpable void. Carl Jung once said, "What we are not conscious of appears in our lives as destiny." Some people leave a relationship like a violent storm, loud, destructive, and leaving everything in ruins. Others leave like a beautiful song, ending at precisely the right moment. There is no grand climax, no dramatic farewell, just a lingering echo in the silence that makes the listener turn back, searching for a sound that is already gone. A woman who knows how to vanish like this doesn't make a man feel guilty. She makes him feel empty. Not the emptiness of losing someone, but the far more profound emptiness of losing a part of himself that was just beginning to awaken in her presence. According to Jung, when a relationship ends in chaos and anger, the human mind tends to shut down emotionally as a form of self-protection. But when an ending is quiet, without a clear resolution or a final, dramatic confrontation, the unconscious keeps the story open, like a book left unfinished in the middle of a chapter. She doesn't scream to be remembered. She leaves small, indelible traces, a final, unreadable glance, a profound silence after an unanswered message, a quiet retreat without announcement that makes a man wonder for years. What just happened? I once listened to a friend speak of a former lover with a voice that was a mixture of sadness and reverence. "She didn't blame me for anything that happened," he said. "She just quietly slipped out of our familiar routines. But everything I touched afterward, from the songs she loved to the streets we used to walk, felt different. She was gone, but the ghost of what she brought out in me was still here. Because she didn't wound him with accusations, she wasn't remembered as an antagonist in his memory. And because she didn't cling or beg, her image never faded like those of other more dramatic breakups." A woman who leaves beautifully knows she doesn't need to defeat anyone or hurt anyone to affirm her own worth. She only needs to preserve her dignity, her silence, and let her mark become a permanent part of a man's unconscious, a part he can never name, but can also never escape. 8th, not reacting to manipulation, observing and disappearing. In a world where emotional manipulation is increasingly disguised under the veneer of love and care, the awakened woman does not react with anger, defensiveness, or pain. She observes, she recognizes, and she quietly withdraws. As Jung emphasized, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And in the game of love, no words carry more weight than a conscious, silent disappearance. Manipulation isn't always harsh words or overt coercion. More often, it comes in subtle forms. The deliberate use of the silent treatment to induce guilt, backhanded compliments that subtly undermine your confidence, feigned agreement to avoid real conflict, or actions that make you constantly doubt your own perceptions and sanity. It's when a man wields emotions as a soft weapon to maintain control. But the most dangerous part of this dynamic is not the act itself. It's how you can be unconsciously drawn into the game, trying to explain yourself, trying to prove your worth, or fighting to reclaim a place in his heart that was never genuinely offered to you in the first place. A woman who has embarked on the journey of individuation, as Jung described it, no longer reacts with a primal, defensive instinct. She doesn't scream, she doesn't justify, and she doesn't fight to be proven right. She sees the game for what it is, and then she leaves the playing field entirely. Like the moon that doesn't compete with the sun for light, she doesn't feel the need to convince anyone of her inherent worth. Her silence isn't an act of surrender. It is a powerful refusal to continue playing a game she never signed up for. A follower of our channel once shared a story about how she often found herself in relationships with men who use silence as a weapon to make her feel guilty. Until one day, when a partner repeated the old trick, going silent in the middle of an argument, she did something different. She sent no more messages. She made no more calls. She simply deleted his contact information, unfollowed him on social media, and withdrew from his life without a sound. Months later, it was he who returned, utterly bewildered by her sudden and complete disappearance, because for the first time, he had no chance to play the victim and no one left to control. A woman who chooses not to react is not weak. She is a woman who has realized she has a choice, and her choice is to not allow herself to become a tool for anyone else's emotional manipulation. It is a withdrawal, without anger, without a demand for justice. It is simply an act of profound self-respect and awakening. Ninth, knowing your worth. Carl Jung believed, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But to reach that state of authentic being, a woman must first pass through many painful moments of not belonging, many instances of pleasing others, only to feel hollow and empty inside. Knowing your worth is not arrogance. It is the quiet, unshakable peace you feel when you are alone, and the calm acceptance of being misunderstood, because you no longer require external approval to confirm your intrinsic value. A woman who possesses this deep energy doesn't try to be likable or constantly adjust herself to fit others' expectations. She lives like a mountain climber. Those who are meant to be on the journey with her, who can handle the altitude, will stay. Those who cannot will naturally fall away. She doesn't chase, but she is never afraid of loss. A yoga instructor once shared her story with me. I used to try so hard to be more interesting, funnier, or more agreeable on dates. I thought I was creating a connection, but really, I was just breaking myself into smaller, more palatable pieces to be easier for someone else to swallow. I didn't realize that until the day I understood. If I have to shrink myself to please someone, they are not the person I should be opening up to. She now carries the energy of someone who has touched the very center of her own being. Someone who no longer trades her inner truth for the temporary presence of someone else. When a woman enters a space with this inner sense of wholeness, she doesn't need to strive to attract anyone. Her calm, quiet confidence, the deep-seated knowledge that she is enough, just as she is the very thing that draws others to her. Jung spoke of the self-archetype, the deepest psychological center where one's true, indivisible essence resides. A woman who knows her worth lives in close proximity to that archetype. She doesn't need to be the star of anyone else's story, because she is already the protagonist of her own, with or without a companion. Men are instinctively drawn to women who are not trying to conquer them, but who have instead conquered their own fear of being left behind. And when a woman like that walks away, what a man remembers is not just a person. It's a state of being. It's the unforgettable experience of having touched someone the world cannot sway. And finally, the 10th attitude, which is not an attitude at all, but the journey itself, the journey of individuation, living authentically, not playing a role. A woman who truly knows her worth doesn't need to prove anything because the simple act of being herself is enough. But to reach that point of effortless authenticity, she must cross a terrain that few dare to tread, the sacred journey of individuation. It is a journey where there is no stage lighting, no prescribed roles of being the charming woman or the strong woman, only the constant, echoing question, who am I when no one is watching? Jung did not see individuation as some lofty, ideal goal to be achieved. To him, it was the deepest inner obligation we all have, to become the unique, individual person our soul was born to be, not a carbon copy of what society expects. And that journey doesn't begin with shining. It begins with breaking apart. A woman who is individuating has stood among the shattered shards of her public image, her learned roles, and her old expectations, and she has chosen not to piece them back together as they were. Instead, she builds something new, something raw and original from the pieces, even if the result is a little rough around the edges or doesn't please others. She no longer lives to fit in. She lives to be real. This isn't expressed in an eccentric or rebellious way, but in the quiet way. She no longer wears the costume of the ideal woman that has been tailored for her by others. She can be weak, she can be wrong, she can be soft, and she can be strong, all in the same moment, because she no longer tries to unify herself into a single, fixed, predictable personality. In a world where most people are playing roles, the perfect lover, the agreeable woman, the independent woman who needs no one, the presence of someone who is not acting is a rare and powerful phenomenon. A woman who is individuated doesn't follow the external rhythm of the world. She lives by her own inner cycles. Sometimes she is rebellious. Sometimes she is withdrawn. Sometimes she is deeply connected. And sometimes she needs to vanish completely. No one can ever fully predict her, because even she does not program herself into a fixed habit. Individuation doesn't make a woman more attractive in a conventional sense. It makes her an inimitable symbol, not because she tries to be, but because she simply is herself in a world that constantly demands conformity. And men, though they may not be able to articulate it, are drawn to this authentic energy like a compass needle to a true magnetic pole. Because in her, there is something primal, something unnamed, yet something ever-present in the collective unconscious of all humanity. Ultimately, what makes you live forever in a man's memory is not a set of techniques for how you make him love you. It is how you awaken a part of his own soul that he had never met, had never even named. Every woman holds this power within her. You only need to learn how to rouse it from its sleep. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to step into the fullness of yourself, where light and shadow coexist, where old pain is embraced rather than denied. From that place of authentic wholeness, you are no longer a model to be chased, but an experience a man can neither fully grasp nor ever truly escape. And if one day you choose to walk away, you will not leave behind a mere void. You will leave behind a mirror, one that reflects his own unconscious back at him. A mirror in which he must finally face himself more than he ever had to face you. That is why you are not just remembered. You are etched into memory, like a symbol that can never be erased.